I'm Steve Wiggins, and this is the Groundworks Ministries podcast. Now, today we're reading from the book of Hebrews, chapter 5. Let's focus on verses 12 through 14. For though by this time you ought to be teachers, you need someone to teach you again the basic principles of God's revelation. You need milk and not solid food. Now, everyone who lives on milk is inexperienced with the message about righteousness, because he is an infant. But solid food is for the mature, for those whose senses have been trained to distinguish good and evil. Now, I started working full-time when I was in 8th grade. My poor kids have to live up to that. Every time they're like, oh, I don't know, I need money. I'm like, dude, by 8th grade, I was working full-time. I held the cart boy position at the Fianna Hills Country Club. Working at the club taught me two important things. Number one, never wear plaid polyester pants. Don't do it. It's a horrible fashion choice. Number two, money doesn't buy class. Because from my Caddyshack vantage point, I observe men yelling at their wives during tennis matches, marital infidelity, people cheating on other people's husbands and wives, binge drinking, gambling away of expensive cars I saw one time. The list goes on. And just because you're educated and rich doesn't mean that you are refined or mature. And likewise, just because a person attends church doesn't necessarily make him or her a mature believer. Maturity comes when we apply the Bible's teaching and we move beyond being hearers of the word to become doers of it. You see, if we fail to employ the biblical values, well, then our maturity as believers is stunted. Imagine my adult son eating the same baby formula as an 8-month-old. How pathetic would that be at a barbecue or hanging out with his friends? You see, it's the same image that Paul is using for believers who were refusing to faithfully employ the biblical teaching that they received. So the question arises, how did Jesus mature as a young man? We'll consider Hebrews chapter 5, verse 8. Though a son, he learned obedience through what he suffered. Now, in our efforts to make our churches more attractive and relevant by making them more user-friendly, have we perhaps missed the most important lesson about faith? Faith must be employed in order for a person to realize its worth. You see, it's only after we have chosen to trust God in something that we didn't know how this is going to play out. And it's only after we've endured the conditions of our calling and then been delivered through various trials that we can truly say that we were faithful and that our faith works. The problem with the world is not that they don't have access to the gospel or to good preaching. You know, with the internet, we have more access to the gospel answers and good preaching than ever in history. So if we have more access to the Word of God and the gospel than ever, why is it that the world is worse than it's ever been? The problem is that people, while they have access, do not have value for the gospel. You see, those who value the gospel will be willing to suffer for it. The author of Hebrews begged his disciples to share in his suffering. He knew that faith in action moves faith in Jesus from theory into reality. Maturity grows faith upon faith, and our challenge is to press on faithfully, transcending intellectual assent, just Bible studying, and striving to obtain the life that makes suffering worthwhile. You see, when people see you in a stress situation and yet you still continue to stand firm in the gospel, they say, man, I need that in my life. I wish I was that strong. I wish I was that faithful. This is moving from milk to meat, training our senses to distinguish good from evil and obeying the Spirit's leading in the moment. I'm Steve Wiggins, and this is the Groundworks Ministries podcast. Now, Groundworks Ministries operates entirely through financial donations from faithful people just like you. And yes, we need your monthly support. Donating is secure and it's easy at our website, groundworksministries.com. You know another way to help? Tell people about Groundworks Ministries. You can share these podcasts with friends and family, share them on your social media, and of course, you can always direct folks to our website, groundworksministries.com.